How familiar are you with asylum?
Well, I know. I think the basics, the important
All
things.
right.
Okay, we are
Well,
live.
if there's anything complicated, like maybe you want to ask me.
Yeah, sure. I
If
mean,
there's like
Right, we
some,
are live.
I don't know if you got the questionnaire because we got a questionnaire.
yeah, I can't see all the questions.
Yeah, let me send it through the chat.
Yeah, I had them, but I lost them.
Diego, Craig, we can start the show. We are live.
Okay, we're live. Welcome
Oh,
to
yes.
Card with Gehi, featuring Greg Ippolito and Mr. Diego Cordova. Introduce yourself, Mr. Cordova.
Yeah, well, good afternoon, Greg. My name is Diego Cordova. So I'm an attorney. I have like 5 years experience throughout deportation and removal proceedings, also kind of business immigration. So today we're now to talk about something about asylum. So I don't know if we can get started with you, Greg. Thank you for
Sure.
the introduction. Then.
So this is the part two of Card with Gehi, the asylum podcast, if you will, or talk show. And last time we talked about the basics, some complicated issues, and how to file a claim, what are some issues, things you have to do, reasons you might want to get an attorney, et cetera, et cetera. I was joined by Soraya Rahman, the lead attorney of Gehi and Associates. And so we're just going to proceed with part two. So if there's any questions anyone has, please feel free to call in. We do have some questions that have been submitted. We can just start by answering those. Okay. So the first one I have is, how does asylum help me if I'm fleeing persecution? So asylum helps you if you're fleeing persecution, because you're assuming you're already in the United States. You don't have to go back to be persecuted. So depending on what your persecution was, what the troubles you had in your country of origin, asylum helps you because you don't have to go back. You can stay here, remain in the United States, work here, get a green card, and live happily and at peace. Okay. Is there a deadline for asylum applications? Yes. There's the 1-year filing deadline. This is 1 year from the date you entered into the United States. Whether you came in with a visa or crossed unlawfully, you have 1 year to file for asylum. If you did cross unlawfully, you will have to prove that the date that you did come in. This isn't as difficult as it's because many of our clients have bus tickets or some sort of evidence to show when they arrived. Okay. Just like, you can't do it on Let's start it. Okay. And we're back.
I probably not.
We're a little bit of technical difficulties.
Oh, there I am.
Here joining me is Soraya Rahman, the lead attorney that I was just speaking of earlier. She's coming in and out.
Yeah.
She's everywhere all at once. Okay. So Soraya, we've been answering some of these questions.
Okay.
Okay. Where was it? I just had. Anyway, we were talking about the 1 year filing deadline and how to prove the date you entered, and what your options are if you have not passed the 1 year filing deadline. Now, we spoke about this last week where we discussed ineffective counsel or family issues and evidence needed to prove the 1 year filing deadline.
Right. And one one issue I saw with proving the filing deadline, when you, let's say, for example, you, because of the persecution you suffered, you, cross the border, for safety, and you are not caught at the border, and you need to prove, that you entered within the past year. So that can often be a challenge because you were not apprehended at the border, so there's no documentation regarding, you know, the date that you entered the United States. So in those cases, you can establish your entry date with your testimony. You know, you can testify approximately when you left your country, how many days it took to travel throughout the various countries, and you know, when you recall entering the United States.
All right. Excuse the technical difficulties. I'm just gonna move our computer screen a little bit so we can see Soraya.
Okay, we'll just move the screen.
Or, oh, just when we need to?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can move on to the next question. How can I get asylum benefits for my spouse and children? So if you're in the process of applying for asylum, you can include your spouse and unmarried children under 21 as part of your application. And they'll have the same benefits as you while your case is pending. That means that they'll be able to apply for their work permit and their social security after 6 months after filing. And if you've been granted asylum, then you can file a petition for your spouse and children to join you in the United States. And you know, they can go through the process of, you can file a petition and then they can apply for their visa to come to the United States. We'll just take a pause for a quick second and maybe we'll take off the background so that it's easier. Video settings. There we go.
Welcome to our
Now
office.
you get to see all of our organized mess on our desk.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let's see what the next question is. Will I be required to undergo criminal and security checks? Yes, of course. The government definitely wants to make sure that everyone in the United States is safe. So if you have any criminal records outside states, for example, if you have an Interpol warrant or any other type of warrant in other countries, the US government will be able to see that. And it's not necessarily a bar to asylum, but you will have to testify about any arrest that you've had inside the US, outside the US, anywhere in the world. And that's done when you file your asylum application. You'll be sent what's called a biometrics appointment notice. You'll have to go to your local application support center, provide your fingerprints and your photo so that they can run the security checks, so that USCIS can run the security checks. And that happens whether you're applying affirmatively with USCIS or defensively with the immigration court. So great, you want to take the next question?
Sure. All right, I'm back. All right, next question. Okay. But if you have been arrested in your country of origin or anywhere else, it doesn't mean you're barred. Please contact us, have your attorney review it. We've seen many cases where there have been criminal issues, and we can get around them. All right? Okay. We also, I mean, for example, we had a extremely strong asylum case where the woman was, she was persecuted because she was organizing women's rights events in a country that prohibited this. And she had given shelter to many battered women and gave them work. And she was arrested because the government alleged she was running a brothel in order to chill her free speech. And we were able to explain that to the court, and it was not an issue. Well, it was an issue, but we were able to explain it and take care of it. Okay, next question. So I see a lot of questions about how long things take. Normally, they can take as short as 4 months, and take as long as 10 years. We have some clients, we had one client, we won their defensive asylum case. From the time they entered the United States to the time their trial was 4 months. Now that's unusually fast, but it does happen. The way the law is set up is that after 6 months, you can apply for a work permit and be free to live here and work here while you're waiting for either your interview if it's affirmative or your trial date if it's defensive. Okay, so I see also a lot of questions. What if I don't speak English? That's fine. You don't have to learn English. Translators will be provided for you by USCIS or by the courts if you're filing defensively. Okay.
I can take the next one.
Okay, sure. Back to Soraya.
Okay, so and just to go back with the timing question. So yes, it's a wild range of how long the case can take. USCIS has published, made an announcement several years ago actually, about their LIFO policy, which stands for last in, first out. And what that means is when you file affirmatively, they randomly select applications to interview, to put on the fast track. Basically, you file your application and you get your interview date within a couple of weeks. Which is great. All cases should be treated that way, because if you don't want to having a pending asylum application, it makes applicants feel like they're in limbo, that they can't really have any closure on their application. So that should be how all applications are treated, but they only select a few for that. And the purpose of that is to kind of deter applicants from filing frivolous applications. They want to, there is, some, allegations or theories that people file asylum applications just to get a work permit or a social security card, and they want to deter that from happening, and that's why they move the application as quick as possible, just to let people know that if you're filing for that reason, you might be one of the few that get interviewed right away. You don't even get a chance to file a work permit. But again, all of our clients, their claims are bona fide, and most of our clients, want their interview right away. So that's not a problem. Okay, so we can move on to the next question. Let's see. So there is one question: can I apply for asylum abroad? The short answer is no. If you want protection from the US government because of persecution while you're abroad, that is a refugee claim. Asylum, it means you are in the United States. If you are outside of the United States, you are then asking to be classified as a refugee. That's a whole different process. That's usually done by, that process is done by NGOs, by the UN, you know, at refugee camps, and that's a different process. Asylum is only if you're in the United States. Okay, another question we have is, can I travel with pending asylum? We typically advise our clients to kind of stay where they are while their case is pending. However, there is, and you can certainly move within the United States, but if you want to travel internationally, that is much more difficult, if not impossible, while your case is pending, while your asylum claim is pending. There are options to ask for advanced parole, but they are rarely granted, but granted sometimes. So short answer, can I travel while with a pending asylum? I would say generally no, but there's an exception under very extreme situations. Okay. Greg, you want to take the next couple of
Sure,
questions?
okay, the next couple questions. All right, can I apply for asylum twice? Well, no, and yes, if you file affirmatively and your case is referred to the courts from USCIS, yes, I mean, that's two applications. In some circumstances, you can also, if there are changed circumstances in your country that are extremely severe, you can try to reopen your past asylum case. But those are very, those would be very, you know, rare circumstances. But they do happen. If you filed for asylum and you were denied, and then something, you know, extremely tragic happened in your country, which gives you another reason to file for asylum, there are cases that you can reopen and try again. Okay, but it's generally the answer, you know, as with the previous question, the answer is no. You can't really. Okay, so I see a question. How do I report sexual exploitation while in asylum? I don't know exactly what this is asking, but if you're a victim of human trafficking, there's a separate type of visa, okay, called a T visa.
Yes, correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a T, sorry, I have to check with my boss, you know, but so called a T visa, and this is if you're, you know, human trafficking along these lines, okay. You can always report it, okay, you know, depending on the authority that you wish to report it to, and we, of course, we encourage you to do so to help end any of the, you know, sexual exploitation among migrants and you know, people in general. So we strongly encourage you to report it. It could be part of your asylum claim, related to your asylum claim, but it could also be for your T visa application. And T visas are unique, where they're similar with U visas, where you can, even if you can also apply for a T visa if you have a removal order.
Yes.
So yeah, so it's unique. Even if you have a removal order, you can still apply for a T visa. You know, the United States government does not want people to have to return who've suffered, you know, this way and or were trafficked for these reasons. Okay, who's next? Any live questions? Are there any video?
Guys, I think I can interrupt you just a little bit. We got a Spanish question. So Greg, the question is, I'm gonna read it in Spanish, okay? Dice, ¿qué tiempo tengo para poder aplicar al asilo desde que entro a Estados Unidos? Es una pregunta que la respondimos ya en inglés. Desde la fecha de entrada a los Estados Unidos, tú tienes un año para aplicar al asilo. Un año, quiere decir 365 días. Si es que tú ingresaste el 1 de enero del 2022, tienes hasta el 1 de enero del 2023 para poder hacer tu aplicación de asilo. This means just 1 year since your date of entry to the US, you have 1 year to apply for the asylum, to do it there like 365 days. So just that, guys.
Okay, was there a question there or,
Yeah, was there a question, Spanish question there?
oh, okay.
Okay, so next question. Last time we had video calls where we could talk to real people asking real questions. Are there any of those today? I guess not. Anyway, okay, so let's go through some more questions that we have. Okay. A lot of these we answered last time. Okay, is the information I provide on my asylum application protected? Yes, for the most part, it is protected. The United States, especially if you're being persecuted by a foreign government, the United States is not going to provide that information to the government that you're alleging has persecuted you. It could be disastrous for your family and disastrous for your case. Now, the United States does, through its embassy, check up on some things, but such as they can look into, did you live here? Were you married to this person, etc. But for them to divulge this information to a foreign government, and that you're applying is unlawful and not allowed. So so please feel free to and you're required to disclose everything, and do not worry about this. It's essential that you divulge everything and explain everything to your attorney and to the government, and you should feel protected while doing so. Okay. Okay. If I'm a child, can I still apply for asylum? Yes. And there are other applications you might want to consider filing for as well. But children, you can apply for asylum as a child. It's more or less the same process. There's also, if you're an abandoned child or you were abused, there's what's called special immigrant juvenile. And for these cases, we start off in family court and then continue them to USCIS. And if you can prove in family, if you can get what's called a special finding order in family court, you can then take this order to USCIS and request a green card through a self-petition, okay? And that's if you're under the age of 21 and you've been abandoned or abused by your family and you have nowhere to go. So frequently these clients have a guardian or someone that's willing to be there for them, and that guardian would go with them to family court. They'd be awarded guardianship, and then the judge would give a special findings order, and we bring that special findings order to USCIS, and you can petition for a green card yourself. Okay, that's one option.
And in New York, for the special findings, that's a great point, Greg. In New York, the age limit for a guardianship is 21 in New York. In some other states, it might be 18. So it depends on what state you're in, as far as how old the cap for a guardianship where you can get the special findings order. But in New York, it is 21. And I just wanted to elaborate a little bit more on the process of children applying for asylum. If a child crosses the border, they're usually classified as a UAC, which is an unaccompanied child. And the process is just a little bit different in that before their case goes to immigration court, they do get an opportunity to interview with the asylum office in a, a confrontational environment before they go to asylum court. So it makes it a little bit easier for children. So.
Thank you. All right. Okay, so a lot of these other questions I feel like we've answered last time. So Diego, do you have any more questions you'd like to ask? CFI process?
Well, I don't know. We got a question there. If I am a child, can I still apply for asylum?
We just answered that.
Yeah, that was yeah.
Okay.
So
Sarina would like to talk about your credible fear interview. Okay. And this is when, if you cross the border unlawfully, and it doesn't always happen when you cross the border unlawfully. It can happen after you've been in the United States as well. You're given what's called a credible fear interview. Okay, and this is done by an officer. It's ICE, correct? Or
It's actually USCIS.
It's USCIS.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does this interview, and there's a list of questions. They'll basically ask you, do you fear returning? And if they find that you have a credible fear of returning to your country of origin, they'll put the brakes on your removal. Okay, you being deported, right? To make this credible, they'll ask you specific questions. Are you part of any groups? Are you, what is your race, religion, sexual orientation? And they'll ask you of past examples of persecution and specifically why you can't return. And if they find you credible, they won't send you back, won't remove you in that moment. Like I said, this can also happen if you've been in the United States, say on a tourist visa. Sometimes, they get a little overzealous, they might pick you up and they'll give you a credible fear interview before returning to your country of origin. Okay.
Yeah, and just to add to that, and the reason it happens at the border is because there are special rules that are in place at the border that do not apply to when you're in the interior of the country. When you cross, whether it's to the airport, like Greg mentioned, or through the border, or you come to a port of entry and you ask for admission at the border, you are subject to expedited removal proceedings. That means that the government can remove you from the country without the full protection of removal proceedings, which allow you to get counsel, present a case, present reasons why you can't go back to your home country or why you shouldn't be removed to your home country. You're not afforded those protections when you are at a port of entry or within 100 miles of a US border. In those situations, before the government can remove you and issue an order of expedited removal, they are required to ask you if you're afraid to go back, and if you are, that's when they conduct the credible fear interview. The threshold for establishing your fear of persecution is much lower during a credible fear interview. The interview is much less in depth than a full affirmative asylum interview. If you file after you enter the United States. One new development in the credible fear process and expedited removal process is that before, asylum officers only had the authority to refer the applicant, the person with credible fear, into full removal proceedings. There's been a development now where the asylum officer now has the authority at the border, the officer that's conducting the interview, they can actually grant asylum now. So that is a new development. And it makes the credible fear process all that more important. Sometimes people who cross border and go through the interview fail their interview and they're unable to establish credible fear. Maybe they just come through a long journey, they're disoriented, their memory is not good, and they don't pass their credible fear interview. In those cases, they can ask the judge to review the decision, and the judge can either decide that the asylum officer was correct or not correct. And if the judge then affirms the asylum officer, then unfortunately, then the person will receive an expedited removal order, and there are options. And in that case, I suggest that the person reach out to an immigration attorney to see what their options are. Okay.
Sorry, is there any time limit for expedited removal to be of concern?
Yes, so it's 100 miles or 14 days. During the Trump administration, that was extended to 2 years after a person comes through the border. But we have, I believe, I would have to double check this, but I believe we've now returned to the rule which was in place before, which is 100 miles or 14 days of crossing the US border.
Okay, so after 14 days, you're no longer subject to this expedited removal?
Correct.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right. All right, Diego, we cut you off earlier. Would you like to come back?
Well, yes, I don't know. We have a question there. Is the information I provide on my application protected?
Yes, it is protected. The United States cannot give this information to your persecutors if you're alleging persecution. For example, let's say if you're part of an opposition government or a religious minority, if the United States government went and questioned officials in your country of origin, your family could be subjected to increased persecution. So the information is safe. You must disclose, please disclose it to us. It'll only help your case. And the government it's unlawful for the government to release that information. Okay. All right. So any further questions? Okay. What are the changes to the asylum process due to COVID-19? Okay, so legally, there were not a whole lot of changes, but legally that would affect your asylum as a whole. But there were practical changes that, for example, we're doing a lot of this on Zoom or WebEx. So for attorneys such as myself or Soraya, instead of going to the court, we just come to the office, and just as I'm talking to you now, we argue the case. In the beginning, we were a little bit leery of this because myself, I was thinking maybe the judge won't see all the emotion, won't the witness or the respondent would not come off as credible or as credible. But after doing this, for a year now on Zoom, I feel it has had no ill effect on any of our clients' cases, and especially for preliminary hearings, I encourage it. It's much easier to do this all through the office. The other COVID were, sorry, what was it called when they wouldn't let you cross the border, title,
Metering or MPP.
yes, where
Yeah.
there were some, they, due to health concerns, they weren't allowing some people to come in, so that could affect your asylum cases. But legally speaking, the laws are the same.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, it was just, there were some procedural changes that took effect after COVID. The asylum officer in affirmative cases would be in a separate office as the applicant. But I believe those restrictions, those procedural restrictions have ended, so we're almost back to pre-COVID procedures. So I think we've answered all of the questions. So what I would recommend is if you are considering filing for asylum, if you're afraid to return to your country, that you contact experienced immigration attorneys to help you navigate your claim and put the best case forward. So you're welcome to reach out to our office. We have 3 offices. We have one in Jamaica, Queens. We have one in Ozone Park, Queens, and we have our main office is in Jackson Heights, Queens. We have 3 offices in Queens, but of course our clients are all over the world because we do more than asylum cases, of course. Today we're focusing on asylum cases, but we have clients all over the world for all kinds of immigration cases. We are able to communicate with our clients remotely as we are in this session. And I encourage you to call us. Of course, this webinar is attorney advertisement. This webinar or any of our webinars are not intended to give any specific person legal advice for their case. Every case is different. So this is not legal advice. This is an attorney advertisement. Please contact us and we would love to speak to you about your case. I'll give you the addresses for our 3 offices. Our Ozone Park office is at 10405 Liberty Avenue, and that's in Ozone Park, New York, 11417. Our phone number at Ozone Park is 718-577-0711. We have an office in Jamaica. It's located at 17329 Jamaica Avenue, and that's in Jamaica, New York, 11432. The number there is 718. It's on our website. And then of course we have our Jackson Heights office. It's right in the middle of Jackson Heights. So you won't miss us. You can visit us at www.gehilaw.com. You can reach me directly at Surya, that's SURYIA at gehilaw.com. You can reach attorney Greg Ippolito directly at Gregory, GREGORY at gehilaw.com. We would love to speak to you. We hope you enjoyed our presentation, and we will see you again soon.
Okay, thanks for watching, everyone. All right, next week on Green Card with Gehi.
Yes.
We have like a preview. What are we going to talk about next week?
We're welcome. If the audience wants to present us with any topics that they're interested in learning more about, you're welcome to let us know, and we love to present on those topics as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thank you.